Right.
Friday the 13th, Part 1.
1980. This is going to be our in-depth
Horror discussion review, breakdown scene by scene.
talk about all the kills, the villain.
Yeah, this movie was inspired by, like,
the scenery.
Alfred Hitchcock's.
The classic theme.
And, like, Halloween. And, like, you know, having to do with that, type of, like, around that year and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, Friday the 13th, we gotta come up with something.
He's like, Cunningham was like, what's another spooky holiday? Oh, Friday the 13th.
We can make a movie out of that.
No, but they wrote one of the best scripts that they could around that holiday.
It was pretty good story overall.
Unofficial cursed holiday. Alright.
It's definitely for being
We're gonna
79.
jump right into it. We break it down
Pretty
every
good shooting.
scene. Mr. Creepshow now.
Alright, let's jump in. Scene 1.
Paramount, fade to
Starts
blue.
off with the old school Paramount, and you're like, oh, tight. And
As we know, it had like a $500,000 budget.
And then it fades to the freaking moonshot. It's tight.
Classic.
The freaking clouds. It's like a full moon. And it's like Camp Crystal
Lake. As we
Lake.
know, it's the Camp Crystal Lake 1958.
And it's at nighttime, and it's home.
Origins opening scene. One of the best opening scenes.
We're meeting the cast
of
of kids around the freaking campfire singing Kumbaya. With their freaking guitar. No comment, Josh?
Yeah, no comment. Wow.
Alright, so then it goes to the killer's POV, point of view.
Already playing the classic
and
theme.
freaking, like,
also.
looking from peeking around the woods, freaking, like,
they
looking
keep
at
it
the
as
kids.
like a who-done-it story, which is pretty awesome if you
So
think about
as the
seeing it
freaking
for the
kids-
first time.
As the kids are freaking singing, two of them sneak off, and they're, like, making out. And then they sneak up into a loft.
Oh, and he, like, tells the girl, when you, like, tell the girl anything to make out with her at a party.
Nah, never done that.
Alright, no one believes you.
Wow, okay, so anyway, he tells her anything to make out with her, so they start making out, and they use the killer's point of view again.
She's like, how special, right?
It shows back to the kids again singing Kumbaya, and they sing a different song, and they're like, alright, round
There's
two.
a lot more gore than people give it credit for.
I know, because every
movie.
time, there's like a good percentage of people out there that don't freaking
Because April
give it the
Fool's
good
Day
credit.
keeps it like the same kind of killer POV, who done it. You
They
don't
don't
know
give
who the
it-
killer is, but there's not that much gore in that movie. This movie, there's like a bunch of hardcore
They don't
blood.
give it that percentage. There's that percentage they don't give it the full credit because they'll see it on TV and they'll be edited up to hell, so you don't see any of the kills, and they'll be like,
yeah,
"Oh, this
it's
movie,"
terrible
they'll be like,
on
"This movie
TV.
sucks." But if you see the real full version, it's
Says
tight. The
this
kills are
movie
tight.
moves at a
Alright,
good
anyways,
pace and
So
has.
it shows the kids sing Kumbaya.
And this is one of our favorite franchises, by the way. Friday the 13th. We're huge slasher
Alright, so it
fans
goes
because of the
back up.
scenery
Goes back up to freaking the killer's point
out
of
in the
view.
woods in the cabin. Doesn't
Killer's
get
point
better.
of view, and freaking she catches the kids. And we don't know at this time.
No,
who
then
is.
it goes girl the freeze frame and
No,
it pauses on
Yeah,
her.
she kills the boy, and he's like, "Oh, we weren't doing nothing."
Stabs her with a knife.
As he's zipping up his freaking
Mrs.
winky.
Mrs. Voorhees' weapon of choice, the freaking knife. And then it does the Friday the 13th iconic logo.
It does a shaky camera on her, like right before the kill, and she's like, like trying to dodge
There's the
forever.
Friday the 13th logo
Filler.
in the shattered
Her
glass.
running around, and then freaking.
The theme, the
And then it
credits.
freezes on her. It's like a freaking Dark Knight Batman freaking action scene. Where freaking it's all close shaking. You can't even
But
see
it's
what's
like
going on. Alright, go on.
too
So then it
close
freezes
to
and then it's like,
when it
Friday the
comes.
13th, and it's like Windows freaking 79 freaking PowerPoint, like showing the coming in. Friday the 13th logo, it's tight as hell. Alright, so then it cuts from there.
Then it cuts to modern day, Friday, June 13th,
And it's
1980.
like, yeah, present.
With the girl hitchhiking in town, and it shows a shot of this bridge with the
Real
creek going
tight
under
shot.
it.
Gorgeous
This was filmed
scenery.
in New Jersey, as everyone knows.
Not everyone, but go on.
And then she gets the ride from the guy in the diner.
Yeah, she goes to a diner, the local freaking Ike's store from like the Walton. She goes in there and she's like, "Oh, can you vouch for anyone? Give me a ride in this place?" Like it's freaking death proof.
And that's when we run into the iconic old guy, Ralph.
No, but then they're talking.
And he's like,
they're all talking because she wants to go to the freaking Camp Crystal Lake, though. All the
originally,
at the store.
this movie was gonna be called.
And they're like,
Camp
"Oh,
Blood.
you don't want to go up there." And then freaking she gets the ride from the one trucker guy. And then on the way up there, he's telling
her. He's like, "It's got a death curse."
He's like, "No, yeah." As they go out the store, there's the town drunk that shows up.
And this girl's a cook, gonna be a cook, and on the ride out there, he tells her about the
town
guy
drunk's like, "There's a death curse," before they leave, and then they get in the car.
Anyway, on the ride out there, there's beautiful scenery, and he tells her about the Camp Crystal Lake.
He's
Jinx.
like, "Yeah, there's a boy that died there," and he's like, "Yeah, they tried to start that place up before after the 2 murders."
He was like, "There was the fires," and then he was like,
and then they tried to start up the water there, and
he was like, "There was bad water because Jason was shitting in it
for the past
in the 70s,
for the past like 10 years, 20 years, whatever." Yeah, he's been shitting in it for like the past 10 years. There we go.
And then he's just like, "Christy put $25K in it, the main boss in it."
And she's like just shrugging it off, like, "Oh, I'm sure it's a cool camp."
Because he's trying to resurrect the camp. He's like the fourth person, I guess, to try and do it.
So then he drops her off like halfway
Voorhees
or something.
Has stopped all of them ever since.
The trucker drops her off at like a freaking tight like cemetery
since
right out there.
1958.
She gets out, and then it cuts right from there over to like the red truck that's driving. It's the other cast.
The main cast.
That's showing up to freaking.
And it's a farm shop.
And they're gonna be the workers at Camp Crystal Lake to help restore it. And freaking, it's like what?
Farm shot out in the country.
It's like 4.
And it shows the Camp Crystal Lake sign.
And then freaking, then they show up and the guy's chopping wood and he's wearing like short shorts and he's got like the.
Yeah, he's like dressed for S&M, like
he's got
Freddy's
like
Revenge
the boots
style.
And he's got like the freaking handkerchief around his neck, like he's freaking Shaggy or something.
He's in a YMCA
Freddy
video
from
or
Scooby-Doo.
something. He's dressed to go to like Studio 54.
He's dressed to go to like that gay bar from freaking
not
Family
with that
Guy.
shirt.
Not with
I
that
said not with that shirt. That's what he would say. You know that from the trailer of Studio 54 with Mike Martin.
If you know, it's freaking hilarious. But if you don't know, you're thinking, wow.
So anyway, right when they pull up to meet the boss, he asks them like immediately to start helping them.
Yeah, you know,
like right when
those bosses.
They're there to like help resurrect the camp in like 2 weeks, and like.
And they get out, and he's like, "Oh, help me with this stuff."
You know those bosses when you like get hired, and they're like right when you jump out the car, and it's just like Kevin Bacon's character Jack. And then it's like the dyke-haired main bitch, as we know, Alice.
So then they help him lift the thing, the stump, and then he's like, oh, and then they shake hands, and he's like, "Oh, thanks. And then he's like, "Oh, I need you to start painting right away." And he's just
okay.
And he's just like,
I'll help you get dressed.
He's like, "I thought we had 2 weeks to."
Anyway, and then
so the cast all breaks apart, you know, around the freaking getting their bags together, going to cabins.
And then the main girl and the boss like have like a complicated relationship.
Oh yeah, they talk for like a brief second.
Because this is written by
immediately cuts from there to them already working, and she's like repairing the freaking gutter.
Who's written soap operas, so it's like a mini soap opera. Like
she's nailing it back.
Complicated relationship. He's like, if you don't like it here, you can go in a week.
1950s.
Okay. And he's just like, "You're a good artist. Wow."
Oh yeah, he's looking at her freaking like notebook with her drawings, and she's like, "Yeah." And
anyway,
she's like, "I don't know if I want to go to art school."
So then he immediately leaves, so that if you're watching this for the first time, they also make you think that the boss might be the killer, because he's like being a hard ass and he drives off in his Jeep, and then after that he immediately.
And he's gone.
Picks up Annie, the cook, who is hitchhiking, because she just got dropped off like not too far away, because the guy who's a local there didn't want to drive into Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful scenery on the back roads. And then he picks up Annie, and it's in the killer's POV in a Jeep, and you don't know who it is.
And then she's like, "Please stop," where she's talking about the camp and everything. And then they pass Camp Crystal Lake. She's like, "Oh, please stop." And he's
then she jumps out
nobody
like
says
a
anything.
stunt
It's just,
scene,
the killer's
like an
vision
action
of the
scene.
driver. And freaking, she jumps out and then chases her through
the
woods.
And
and this is where it goes on for like a good 5 minutes filler of just chasing her. And
Okay.
they're like slow motion running.
And like 6 people play like the villain in this. It's like a stunt guy's hands that like slits her throat.
Oh, I know.
It's a badass kill, but you can tell it's like a stunt guy.
Yeah, you can
like
tell
not
it's like
Mrs. Voorhees at all.
You can tell it's some like big,
not Jason either.
You can tell it's like that one fat kid in your great's hands.
No, it's like some stunt guy's hands. It was like the best stunt guy there. Like, but it was an awesome kill. Like, was slit across the throat.
Good shot. Good 80s prep. 79
No,
prep.
I guess people liked like POV, like that Alfred Hitchcock style for like
Point
30
of view
years.
Of the killer. Well, that was a lot of like 1950 shit too. Like back then, they did a lot of that freaking. Like,
Because it fulfilled their fantasy of killing someone.
Like
or
they
something.
do that for ghosts, and they do that for a lot of things. Like being the vision of whatever the.
Okay,
whatever
then
it
it's
be.
the swim scene.
All right, and then it cuts back to the kids, and they're like, "All
Because
right,
it is Camp Crystal
all right,
Lake.
we did a little bit of work, so now we're just gonna do a little swim scene, and it's filler forever." And then it's like the killer's point of view, walking around looking through the trees, looking through across the lake at them swimming.
No, then they do the fake drowned for like
kid does a
filler,
fake drown
like
scene. Kevin
comedy
Bacon
relief.
runs out there on the dock and jumps in,
No,
and does like
he
a belly flop.
No, he's like such a shitty swimmer, I guess, or whatever. He like tried to do a dive and he like belly flopped.
Yeah, because he's such
and they put that cut in the movie.
Yeah, he's such a fucking
Probably because
tool.
they like hated him or whatever.
Yeah, what a tool.
No, he was awesome as Sebastian Shaw, the main villain in X-Men Origins.
Yeah,
This summer.
he's alright.
11.
He's got some good movies. Alright.
Anyway, like Jason's like in the freaking. No, Mrs. Voorhees is like looking at him in the woods. It shows her POV.
Yeah, as I was saying.
No, then they do like the snake filler. It's like a total
yeah,
like
it's back-to-back filler.
It's like a 1950s I Love Lucy skit or something.
So they did forever them swimming, and then he does the fake scene of him drowning. So
it's
like
trying to
you're
get to know the
joking.
characters.
They're like, and then they all go to their cabins, and then it goes to them. Camera goes separately to each one of them in their cabins, and then it's the chick like in their cabin, and then it's the freaking snake, and then everybody like shows up out of nowhere.
And
like,
he uses like a skinny like cheap machete.
Everybody
to,
like runs in, and the kids that just showed up already know what's going on. They're like and they just start running around inside the cabin like there's a snake.
It's total
and it goes on for like 4 or 5 minutes, and you're like, all right. And
then they give her a comedy line, and she's like, "At least we know it's for dinner." And they're like, "Oh, Marcy,"
because they cut off the head.
It's a different stroke.
The kid comes in with the machete, and they cut off the head of the snake, and she's like, "Oh, Marcy." She's like, "Yeah, no, it's for dinner." So then it cuts from there.
Then it's the cop scene.
And the cop shows up, and freaking as the cop's like, showing up, it's broad daylight still, and freaking like the kids outside.
I don't know this guy's name. It's the guy wearing the '88 jersey.
Yeah, and he's got the Indian freaking hat.
And he's wearing it has a diaper.
And he's like, oh,
and it's like Mississippi Valley
he's
State
like
colors.
screaming like an Indian, and the cop shows up, and then he turns around, and he sees the cop, and he's like, oh shit.
This is like one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie.
Oh yeah, because
like,
then Kevin Bacon walks up, and he's like, cool
nice bike.
He's like, nice bike.
He's like, what you been smoking, boy? He's just like, oh, I don't smoke. Causes cancer. And then even though they show him smoking later in the movie,
oh, yeah, they show him smoking later in the movie. But no, then the cop's just like,
of course.
The cop's just like, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Colombian gold, grass. He's like
hash.
He's like hash.
The weed, like,
you
dig it.
You dig it. And it's like a total line that they wrote, and you're like, what?
Anyway, the cop.
Lines, yeah.
And then the cop's just like looking for the old guy, Ralph, as we know. And he's just like, he isn't good when he's drunk, because then he has to spend a whole night in the cell sober with me, and I have to watch his ass or something.
He's like, I have to spend a day in court, and and then it's just filler of the cop showing up. It's just filler of the cop being there, and then he tells him, yeah, I'm looking for the drunk guy, the crazy guy that they saw earlier at the beginning of the movie in the town. But then he leaves, cop leaves. And freaking, because he gets a call or some crap, and then they do filler of the cop like on his bike, and he like turns around, woo, and he like does a Yui like in the gravel and like kicks.
I know they wouldn't even show that
out.
in the movie nowadays. It was still like stuck in the 70s.
I know back then they freaking if they were
like,
gonna do something in the movie, they felt like if someone's gonna do their laundry, they filmed the whole time doing the laundry.
They were
like, all right, get the soap. All right,
they were like, hey, we rented this bike for the whole day, so we're gonna get our money's worth.
Like,
show them doing a Yui in the freaking
and they're
driveway.
Like, that'll add.
Camp Crystal.
And they're like, what? That'll add like freaking 5, 6, 10 minutes.
Alright, go to part 2.
Go to part 2 of our in-depth horror discussion review of Friday the 13th, the original 1979 JB.
1980. It was shot in 1979, the fall.
Well, I was getting
Mr.
technical.
Creepshow 09.
Check it out.